Amazing moment, billionaire discovers single mom's life-changing help on a napkin at table 15. In the heart of Chicago, where dreams dance like shadows on the skyscrapers, a single mom named Jessica carved out her life one exhausting day at a time. At 34, she juggled 2 jobs and a whirlwind 8-year-old son named Ethan. Between shifts, they would visit their sacred spot table 15 at their favorite cafe where pancakes became both a meal and a moment of pure joy. With syrupy smiles exchanged and laughter bubbling between them, the world could almost disappear. But on this particular hectic day, billionaire Mark Jefferson strode in, his mind a constant machine calculating profits and losses. When he sat down at the neighboring table, he was wrapped in a cocoon of self-importance, far removed from the simple struggles of everyday life. Yet, as he sipped his black coffee, he couldn't help but overhear the warm encouragement filling Jessica's side of the cafe, a contrast to the sterile boardroom banter he was used to. "Ethan," she said, her voice brimming with hope, "hard work pays off. Dreams don't come easy." Mark raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. He glanced over and saw Jessica's hands animatedly gesturing, a napkin covered with her ideas lying in front of her. The love radiating from her wasn't something he had witnessed in a long time. He watched as Ethan, with wide eyes, absorbed every word, the connection between mother and son tangible, almost electric. It ignited something in Mark. He found himself leaning in, stubbornly resisting the allure of his phone buzzing with notifications. The cafe buzzed with laughter, children playing and parents unwinding, and for a moment, Mark was captivated by Jessica's spirit. "We need to uplift families like ours," she was saying, passion lighting up her cheeks. "Better resources could change lives." She scribbled furiously, determined to breathe life into her thoughts. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the weeks melted into each other, Mark became increasingly restless. Something in Jessica's words echoed his own long-buried feelings about corporate neglect. He began attending community meetings, slowly ripping apart the curtain of indifference that wealth had woven over his heart. Through those little conversations, he glimpsed the raw truth of life in these streets. Meanwhile, Jessica's vision began to ripple through the community, and whispers of her ideas reached newsrooms and coffee shops. It was exhilarating yet terrifying, shadows of doubt clinging tightly to her, even as she thought of the change she dreamed of, one that could create hope for families like hers. That fateful evening approached when Jessica would present her project to local leaders. Mark, standing on the precipice of his own awakening, felt the weight of both guilt and hope. Their destiny woven through ambition, yet both stood teetering on the edge of uncertainty. Would this meeting unleash a force for change, or would it scatter their fates like wisps of smoke? As they prepared to confront their fears, one question loomed in the air: could 2 worlds interlace in a way that brought light to the shadows they fought against? The night Jessica stood before the local leaders, the air pulsed with anticipation. The community center buzzed with conversation, every face fueled by curiosity and hope. Jessica clutched her notes tightly, her hands trembling slightly. She rehearsed her speech 1,000 times, but now, faced with the reality of actually presenting, self-doubt crept in like an unwelcome shadow. Ethan, who sat in the front row, beamed at her with his wide, trusting eyes. His faith in her was a lifeline, and with a deep breath, Jessica took the stage, the weight of so many dreams resting upon her shoulders. The glow of the overhead lights seemed intense, almost blinding, but right beyond them, she could see Mark, standing off to the side, a supportive smile on his face. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice slightly shaky but growing steadier with each word. "I'm Jessica, and I'm here to talk about something that matters deeply to us." She paused, locking eyes with the audience. Single parents and low-income families are often overlooked, struggling against the tide with little support. But I believe we can change that. Together. Her heart raced as she shared her vision, a community resource center that would provide workshops, childcare, and essential services to families battling life's challenges. She spoke of shared meals, mentorship programs, and financial literacy classes, painting a vivid picture of what this place could become. With every sentence, she infused passion into her words, feeling the excitement of possibility swirl around her. Mark watched closely, absorbing every word. He could see the flickers of hope sparking in the eyes of the audience, and it ignited something within him. For the first time in years, he felt the desire not just to observe but to participate, to invest in something meaningful beyond his own wealth. As the presentation moved forward, Jessica reached a crescendo, outlining how they could fund the center through local business partnerships and grants. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, her cheeks flushed with fervor. Our families deserve a place to thrive, to dream big, and I know we can create that together. As applause erupted in the room, Jessica felt tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. It was overwhelming to witness the small, yet powerful, momentum of her ideas taking shape. The energy electrified the room, people exchanging glances filled with newfound conviction. But then, a voice interrupted the reverie. "Excuse me, Jessica." A woman stood up, frowning slightly, skepticism shadowing her features. "This sounds great, but where will the funding come from? I mean, talk is cheap." Jessica's pulse quickened. Could she really persuade skeptics? Mark could feel the tension rising, sensing how fragile this moment was. Without realizing it, Jessica had captured the collective heart of the room, but now, the storm clouds of doubt threatened to roll in. "Mark," she thought, glancing at him for a moment. He only nodded, as if encouraging her to stand firm. "I understand your concern," she said, taking a breath. "But I believe we can work together to make this dream a reality if only we believe it's worth it." As the murmurs settled, silence wrapped around them. That moment hung in the air, teetering between hope and skepticism. Would they rally together, or would doubt extinguish the light before it could truly shine? In that intensity, with all eyes on her, Jessica's fighting spirit surged. She knew this was her chance not just for herself, but for every soul struggling in the shadows of the city. How far could hope carry them? And just when the room felt almost ready to embrace her vision completely, another voice called from the back. "What makes you think you can do this? You're just one woman." She almost flinched, but one glance at Ethan made her stand a little taller. What could she say to turn this moment from doubt to triumph? The answer simmered in her heart, waiting to be unleashed. But as she opened her mouth to respond, she caught Mark's eyes. Would he step in to support her, or would she have to fight this battle on her own? The answer hung precariously in the air, leaving everyone wondering whose vision would prevail in that moment of truth. In that charged silence, Jessica felt the walls of doubt closing in, but from somewhere deep inside, her resolve began to harden. "I'm just one woman," she echoed, her voice steadier now. "But I stand here as a representative of many single mothers, fathers working double shifts, and families that just need a little light to thrive." Gasps rippled through the audience. She felt the murmur of disbelief, but also the shift towards something more hopeful, like a tide starting to turn. She took a step forward, hands outstretched as if inviting them all in. "Every single one of us has a story. Your stories matter. My story matters. We all want our kids to grow up with the opportunities that we maybe didn't have. We can do this because we're in this together. It's not just about me. It's about all of us." Mark stepped closer, his eyes shining with admiration and something more determination. He raised his hand and spoke, his voice calm but commanding. "What Jessica means is that this is an opportunity for everyone here. I have resources, contacts, and a real interest in making this happen. I can't do it alone, but I won't stand by and watch anymore. I want to invest in our community. Who's with us? The atmosphere shifted palpably. Faces that had been closed off began to soften, murmurs of excitement replaced skepticism. Jessica could hear the soft rustle of conversations, questions, ideas, commitment. Ethan grinned widely, his heart beating fast, feeling the energy in the room pulse through him. Let's just say, Jessica added, excitement vibrating her very core, if every person in this room could contribute just a little bit, your time, your talents, your support, we could build something extraordinary. She spotted the woman who had questioned her earlier, her expression now tinged with intrigue. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can make this work together. With each word, Jessica felt freer, as if chains of doubt were shattering. But there in the back of the hall, a tall man who'd been quiet until now stood up. He held his arms crossed over his chest, a look of deep skepticism still etched on his face. That sounds nice, but what about the logistics? The reality of actually running a place like that? It's not just about ideas. Logistics? Jessica breathed deeply, steeling herself for her toughest challenge yet. Logistics are hard, sure. But isn't overcoming challenges part of what makes us resilient? We have to be willing to face the tough conversations, just as much as we're ready to celebrate any success. Are we not stronger together? The air thickened with tension again, but this time Jessica sensed a shift. Mark stood beside her, ready to lend a hand. They were in this together, facing the uncertainty as one. Some audience members nodded, sparked with thought, while others still hesitated. Let's break this down, then, Mark said, taking a step forward. I'll host a meeting next week to discuss logistics. Bring your ideas, your concerns, everything. This is just the beginning. His words unleashed a wave of chatter. People leaned into the conversation, their fears giving way to clarity and excitement. Jessica's heart raced with hope. Yes, challenges lay ahead, but they were prepared to meet them together. As the discussions unfolded, she caught a glimpse of the woman who had first thrown doubt in her path. There was something different in her stance now, curiosity. Maybe even a bit of yearning. Jessica's spirit soared. She could feel that spark igniting a communal fire. This was shaping into something beautiful. But as the energy built, a nagging feeling twisted in her gut. What if they faced the unexpected in their journey? What if doubts resurfaced, threatening progress? Just then, a teacher stood up, nervously brushing her hair back, desperation in her eyes. What if we can't find a location? What if no one wants to help? Jessica met her gaze, the hope in her chest countering fear. Then we'll find another way. Together, we can meet those challenges head-on. But as she smiled and encouraged the crowd, she couldn't shake the feeling that dark clouds might still linger, waiting for the right moment to strike. How would they face those storms ahead, and would their newfound unity be strong enough to withstand the winds of reality? As the night was filled with promise, the path ahead suddenly felt both thrilling and precarious, and Jessica posed herself one final question: was this truly the moment everything would begin, or just the calm before the storm? The days that followed the meeting felt like a whirlwind. Jessica could barely keep up with the flurry of ideas and discussions that erupted from their gathering. The energy in the community shifted. There was an excitement in the air, a sense of possibility that hadn't been there before. It was intoxicating. However, behind that thrill lay the weight of responsibility. Jessica felt it heavy on her shoulders. She spent sleepless nights mapping out plans, dreaming about their future center that would be a beacon of support for families like hers. Mark was a constant presence, a steadfast ally who encouraged her every step of the way. Together, they reached out to community members, scheduled meetings, and built a network of passionate supporters. On a bright Tuesday morning, they gathered in the corner of a local diner, the usual clinking of forks and spoons mixing with the hum of chatter. The air was thick with coffee and optimism. They had set this meeting to address the concerns and ideas that arose from the last event. Jessica looked around the table, her heart swelling with pride. The teacher who had voiced her worries sat next to Jessica, her hands trembling lightly as she spoke. "What if we can't find a space?" The concern was clear in her voice. "This town is small. Who would let us use a building or a gym?" "Let us not think about what we can't do," Jessica replied, gently squeezing the woman's hand. "Let us brainstorm possibilities. There is so much untapped potential if we really consider our options." As ideas flew around the table, Jessica felt the energy building again. A nearby grocery store owner suggested they could use his empty warehouse. An artist offered to help design a welcoming space. The teacher herself contemplated using the school gym after hours. "I can handle the logistics of setting things up if you tell me what you need." That was Mark, his enthusiasm infectious. He shared how he had connections that could help with funding. "This community has everything we need. We just have to string it all together." Jessica caught the eye of the woman who had doubted her. There was a spark of belief behind her cautious demeanor now. She spoke up, her voice steady. "I can help with fundraising. My cousin organizes charity events. If we can find a solid plan, we can gather support." The words felt like a gust of fresh air, and Jessica's heart leaped. As they continued to exchange ideas, laughter and determination buzzed around the table. For the first time in a long while, Jessica felt hope blossoming inside. Each voice added another brick to the foundation they were building together. But just as their spirits were rising, the door swung open and in walked Henry, the quiet man from the last meeting who had raised skepticism. He strode in confidently, but his face was a mask of concern. "I just wanted to talk. I think we need some honesty about what we're getting into here." His voice sliced through the air. The table went silent, all eyes on him. Jessica's stomach dropped as he continued, "It's great that we're all excited, but there are real roadblocks ahead. Not everyone is on board with a community center. There will be people who don't want to see this succeed. But we can't let fear dictate our future," Jessica countered, her own resolve hardening. "That's exactly why we're doing this. We want to prove that our community can work together no matter how tough things get." Henry shook his head slowly. "Just know, doubts will arise as we move forward. We need to be ready for resistance." His words hung in the air like storm clouds. Was he right? Would they face more battles than victories? An uneasy tension filled the room, and Jessica could feel her heart racing again. But then she remembered the stories each person had shared, the passion burning bright around her. "Tonight, let us talk about how we can face those doubts together. If we fall, we'll get back up together." And with that declaration, Jessica felt once more that spark ignite. The fire was still there. Yet, as conversations resumed, she couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps Henry was right. Would their unity hold when real challenges arose? With the seeds of doubt planted deep in her mind, Jessica left the diner that day unsure. The promise of change was closer than ever, but lurking beneath it all was another question: could genuine hope survive in the face of harsh realities tomorrow would surely bring? The following weeks took on a life of their own. Every day felt like a race against time as the energy from that diner meeting propelled Jessica into action. Determined to find a location, she and Mark spent hours driving around town, looking for possible spaces that could become their community center. They visited old storefronts and empty lots, discussing the vision they shared like artists painting a masterpiece. One afternoon, they stood outside an abandoned gymnasium that had seen better days. Peeling paint and broken windows barely hid its potential. Jessica felt a stirring of hope, a flicker of what could be. "This place has bones," she exclaimed, turning to Mark with wide eyes. "Imagine the laughter, the classes, everything we could create." Mark nodded, his enthusiasm infectious. "Let's take a closer look inside." As they stepped through the creaking doors, the smell of stale air hit them. Dust motes floated in the sunlight spilling through the grime-covered windows. They walked together, imagining where the kids would play, where support groups could gather. But soon, doubt snuck in again. Jessica touched the cold wall, and her voice trembled. This needs a lot of work. What if we don't have enough to fix it? What if people still don't want to join us? Mark placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Every great change starts with a little faith. Let us get the community involved. People could rally around this, they wouldn't want to see it go to waste. Spurred by his belief, Jessica made a plan. They would hold another meeting, this time in the gym, inviting locals to see the space and share their thoughts. She put up flyers, spoke to parents at the school, and even sent a message to Henry, extending an olive branch for him to join the discussion. As the meeting day approached, Jessica felt excitement mixed with anxiety. She wanted to create a sense of belonging in a room filled with uncertainty. What if Henry's doubts lingered, overshadowing the progress they had made? When the night finally arrived, the gym was alive with chatter. Families gathered in circles, showing support. Jessica stood at the front, feeling the weight of all their hopes upon her shoulders. "Thank you all for coming," she started, her voice breaking through the murmur. "Tonight is a chance to explore what our community center can be, not just a building but a heart for us all." Her hands trembled slightly, but every passionate face in the crowd encouraged her to continue. She motioned toward Mark, who began outlining their vision. But just as confidence began to swell within her, Henry raised his voice from the back. "I appreciate the effort, but this is a big risk. What makes us think we won't fail?" Uncertainty spread through the room, and Jessica's heart sank. Had Henry's skepticism returned to stifle their progress? She paused, remembering her vision, one where doubt could be transformed into strength. "We've faced challenges already," Jessica said, holding her gaze steady on Henry. "But I believe that our passion can outshine our fears. Let us figure out how we can move forward, together." The energy shifted again as others joined in, voices speaking of shared experiences and dreams. One parent shared how her child was struggling in isolation, while another brought up programs they wished existed when they were younger. The gym buzzed with renewed resolve. As the night wore on, ideas sparked like fireworks. They brainstormed activities, workshops, and even ways to fund renovations. Jessica could feel the walls closing in around her loosen up as hope filled the air again. But just as they were solidifying plans, the door swung open, and someone unfamiliar stepped inside. Tall and imposing, the newcomer glanced around the room, curiosity dancing in his eyes. Jessica's heart raced. Who was he, and what did he want? Henry's voice cut through the tension. "Who's that?" With all eyes turned toward the newcomer, Jessica's pulse quickened, uncertainty creeping back in. Did this unexpected visitor bring more challenges, or could he ignite the spark of opportunity? The question hung in the air, a thick layer of anticipation. What would this stranger mean for their mission? Would he be another voice of doubt, or a lifeline to their dreams? The newcomer stepped fully into the room, taking hesitant strides as everyone turned to face him. His presence felt sharp against the warm, buzzing energy that filled the gym. Jessica's heart thudded loudly, her mind racing with possibilities. Who was he, and what did he want from them? He scanned the room, his expression a mix of curiosity and caution. A few murmurs swirled around, punctuated by nervous laughs. Henry crossed his arms, narrowing his eyes as if trying to size the man up. "Seriously, I've never seen him around here before." Encouraged by the flutter of intrigue in the room, Jessica stepped forward. "Hi there," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heartbeat. "Can we help you?" The tall stranger paused, tilting his head slightly. "Sorry to interrupt. I heard about this meeting happening here tonight. I wanted to see what was going on. What's your name?" Jessica pressed, wishing to unveil the mystery and ease her own nerves. Lucas, he replied simply. He shifted his weight, his eyes flickering to each person, gauging their reactions. I'm new to the area. I saw the signs outside. Jessica noticed his hands were stuffed deep into his pockets, but there was something open in his demeanor. Well, Lucas, we're discussing a community center, a safe space for families, kids, and everyone in between. It's something we believe our community needs. As she spoke, she caught sight of Mark giving her an encouraging nod. Jessica could tell that others were listening too, hopeful that this stranger might align with their passionate cause. Lucas seemed to ponder her words, his brow furrowing slightly. A community center, huh? It sounds ambitious. He hesitated, then added, do you have a plan for it already? We have ideas, Mark chimed in, stepping next to Jessica. Activities for kids, support groups, classes, everything that brings people together. But we need help with the renovation and getting the word out. Lucas took a moment to absorb their enthusiasm. Jessica could feel the air shift, anticipation crackling like static electricity. You mentioned support in the community, he finally responded, fixing his gaze on Jessica, but what about financial support? It's a lot to take on. A ripple of unease washed over the room. Jessica's heart sank momentarily. It felt like now, with this stranger's question, they were confronted by the reality that loomed over every hopeful plan. We're forming a committee to explore options for funding, she said, determined to maintain their vision. We believe in this place. We just need the community to rally behind it. The eyes of the onlookers danced between Jessica and Lucas, both curious and uncertain about how he would respond. Lucas seemed to sense their expectations. Okay, he said slowly, measuring his words, I might know a few people who could help. But... The tension in the gym grew thick as he trailed off. Jessica leaned in, breath caught. But what? But it's going to take more than just ideas and hopes. It's going to take action. His gaze swept the room again, making eye contact with several eager faces. Are you all willing to get your hands dirty? Jessica's conviction surged. This was the moment she'd been waiting for, the chance for their vision to expand beyond what she had dared to imagine. Absolutely. She affirmed, her voice steady and strong. A new wave of energy surged through the crowd. They began whispering among themselves, excitement bubbling over. Lucas's unexpected presence felt like the flicker of a match in a dark room. What if he held the key to something bigger than they had dreamed? As others nodded and voices rose with enthusiasm, they hadn't noticed a man slipping in through the side door, a figure Jessica recognized from the hospital, someone familiar yet distant. Anxiety gripped her again. Who were all these new pieces in this unfolding puzzle? With the room alive with discussion, Jessica turned to her newcomers, her heart pounding. Did they just find a beacon of hope in Lucas? Or was something even more unsettling approaching with the arrival of this new figure? And as everyone exploded with new ideas, Jessica's instinct warned her, change could be both a blessing and a curse. What exactly were they stepping into? The crowd buzzed with excitement, but a shadow of doubt crept into Jessica's mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that Lucas was more than just a newcomer. He stirred something in her, both hope and apprehension intertwined like a web. She turned her attention back to him as he took a deep breath, seemingly weighing his next words against the vibe of the room. All right, he began, his voice steadying, if this is going to work, you'll need to organize some groundwork. Identify who's committed. Numbers matter. His eyes swept across the gathering, seeking yes, not just curious stares. Mark took the lead. We'll create small teams, each tackling a specific area. Fundraising, community outreach, renovation. The energy shifted again, collective determination bubbling to the forefront. Yes. Someone shouted from the side, a mom with bright blue hair who had brought her kids earlier. I've got a knack for organizing events. Great. Let us make a list. Mark said, his voice rising over the enthusiasm. He reached for a notepad, and the ripple effect took form, people eagerly buzzing with their own areas of expertise. It was contagious. As they hammered out ideas, Jessica felt a spark of hope flickering within her chest. This could be an actual push forward. The chatter filled her senses, but her eyes drifted back to Lucas. He was watching intently, a hint of a smile on his lips, but his gaze also lingered on the man who had slipped in quietly, now leaning against the wall. That man had a familiar stance, one of disbelief and slight disdain. She felt a chill run down her spine, the kind that often precedes a storm. Was he a friend or a foe? Do you have something to share? Jessica thought to ask, half confident, half anxious as she turned in the man's direction. He straightened up, revealing a face she recognized, but it didn't light a spark of comfort. Just wanted to see what kind of circus you all are running, he replied coolly, crossing his arms. I don't think you realize how many hoops you'll have to jump through to pull off something like this. The room fell silent, the air heavy with his words. Who are you? Henry snapped, breaking the tension. What do you know about our community? I know it's all talk until you can actually deliver, the man replied, a smirk on his face. Jessica's heart raced. Was he here to undermine them? She felt the weight of the group's eyes settling on her, too. Who was this guy, and what was he doing here? Lucas stepped forward. If there's something you want to share, it would be better to do so directly instead of lurking in the shadows. This is about the community, not about tearing it down. The man scoffed but seemed caught off guard by Lucas's assertiveness. You really think you can get this all off the ground? It's not that simple. Maybe not, Jessica interjected, her voice trembling slightly but laced with determination. But we're willing to try. And we will. This community deserves better. An awkward silence hung in the air. Doubts once again flared, casting shadows over their budding optimism. Jessica felt the collective worry, the weight of uncertain futures like impending rain clouds above them. Look, it's not too late to rethink your approach, the man said, his tone severe, watching every reaction in the room. I just don't want to see you all disappointed. With a mix of defiance and worry brewing inside her, Jessica asked, and what makes you think we will be? Lucas glanced between her and the looming man, then turned to the group, his voice firm. We're all in this together. Everyone has doubts, but that can't stop us. We've already taken the first step. His words ignited a low but firm murmur of agreement, but Jessica's heart ached at the gap between their hope and the challenge that loomed. What if they couldn't rise to meet it? As doubts danced at the edges of her mind, Jessica felt the swell of emotions mix like conflicted waves crashing in her chest. She held back her thoughts, but one thing was clear, this was only the beginning of their fight. A chilling question rattled in her mind. Would they have what it takes to actually make this happen, or was she walking them straight into disappointment? The tension crackled, and Jessica remained on edge, unsure of what lay ahead. Would hope survive the storm gathering on their horizon? The murmurs faded into a thin silence, thickening in tension like fog settling over a quiet lake. Jessica could feel the weight of everyone's eyes, a mixture of encouragement and apprehension, pressing down on her. Lucas, with his earnest demeanor, stood unwavering, but his presence only amplified the uncertainty swirling inside her. The man continued to lean against the wall, his posture still relaxed but his smirk faltering. Let us see you think you've got what it takes. His voice was laced with mockery, and Jessica felt her cheeks burn. She couldn't let him win. Taking a step forward, she cleared her throat. We don't need to prove anything to you, Jessica said, surprising herself with the confidence in her voice. We're here because we care, and we're willing to work for it. Can you say the same? The man's expression shifted slightly, irritation flickering in his eyes. Yet, rather than raising his voice, he simply shrugged. Good luck then, he retorted, although even he couldn't hide the challenge in his tone. Just don't come whining to me when reality hits. Jessica brushed aside his words, her heart racing. Determination fueled her. We'll face whatever comes our way, she declared, glancing at the group now buzzing with a renewed focus, their hope rekindled. People were furiously scribbling down ideas, their faces lit with passionate commitments rather than doubt. Mark raised his voice, drawing everyone back into the fold. Okay. Let us get back to it. Fundraising is key. Jessica leaned into the moment, allowing her frustration to dissolve as she began gathering thoughts to contribute. The air filled with conversations about bake sales, community markets, and fun runs. Ideas pitched and batted around painted a picture of action. Team leaders emerged, voices rising in clarity. Yet amid their growing enthusiasm, her eyes flickered back to the man, now loosening from the wall and sauntering towards the door. Would he really just walk away after casting that shadow? It felt too easy, too casual for someone who had pierced the hope balloon she was trying to inflate. Curiosity and irritation battled inside her, and before she fully recognized her own impulse, she called out, "Hey! What's your name?" He paused, turning halfway to face her with a quizzical brow. "Why does it matter?" "Because we can't let people like you scare us away," she replied, her voice sharper than she intended. "If you think we're just going to roll over for doubt, you've underestimating all of us." For a flickering moment, their eyes locked. Jessica saw something in his gaze, a hint of surprise, perhaps respect. Then he smirked again, though it felt less impactful. "Maybe I need to. Good luck with your circus, Jessica," he said, stepping outside and slipping into the growing darkness. The moment felt momentarily bittersweet. A part of her wanted to scream back, to challenge his cynical view. But the more significant part of her felt a release. The specter of his doubt had morphed into motivation. Jessica turned back to the group, seeing faces illuminated by the glow of determination. "Let us focus," Lucas declared, injecting his presence into the energy. "We have a purpose now. Instead of worrying about doom, let us channel it into work." They responded, filled with fresh vigor, and Jessica could hardly keep up as teammates threw ideas into the air like confetti. She couldn't help but feel that the storm wasn't merely approaching, it was already here. But together, they formed a wall against it, hand in hand against anything that dared to knock them down. The laughter and chatter filled her heart. This was their moment. Yet as she glanced around, that nagging doubt returned: would it be enough? With the hard work ahead, was it possible that storms were brewing closer, unseen yet ready to strike? As the planning continued, Jessica couldn't shake a chilling question: if they truly stepped into the elements, what would it take to keep their dream aloft? And would their light shine bright enough to overpower the darkness lurking just beyond the horizon? The laughter lingered in the air, crackling with excitement. Jessica felt a spark of energy coursing through her, but doubt still clung to her like a shadow. She turned to Lucas, who was busy jotting down notes from the latest brainstorming session. "Do you think we can really pull this off?" she asked, biting her lower lip. He looked up, his brow furrowed in thought. "I mean, we have the will, right? That counts for something." He smiled, trying to reassure her. "We just need to keep the momentum going. Together, we can make anything happen." Jessica nodded, but her gaze wandered back to the door the man had exited. Was he gone for good? Some part of her wished he would return, if only to challenge them again. But then again, maybe she didn't need another reminder of doubt. The room buzzed around her, but the man's words echoed in her mind, a constant reminder of the uphill battle they faced. "All right, everyone," Mark shouted, bringing the group to order once more. "Let us move forward and assign roles. We need teams for each fundraiser idea, and we need volunteers. Who's in?" Hands shot up as people eagerly signed themselves up for various tasks. Jessica felt her heart swell. This was real. They were becoming something. Just as she started to relax, the back door creaked open again, and in strode a familiar figure. The man from before strolled back into the room, his expression a mix of amusement and something else she couldn't quite place. Whispers rippled through the group like a wave. She felt every pair of eyes darting between him and her. "Thought you could use some feedback," he said, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Seems like I underestimated the circus." Jessica squared her shoulders, refusing to back down. "We're not a circus. We're a community. And we're ready to prove that." He raised an eyebrow, folding his arms across his chest. "Community, huh? What if it falls apart? What if nobody shows up for your events? You'll be left with nothing but disappointment." His challenge hung in the air, thick and heavy. Jessica felt the weight of his words, her heart hammering against her ribcage. But she glanced at Lucas and the others, faces lit with hope. "Disappointment is a risk we're willing to take," Jessica replied, her voice steady. "If we don't try, we'll never know what we can achieve. And frankly, I have a feeling we're going to surprise everyone, including you." He chuckled softly, a genuine shift from his earlier demeanor. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I do," she said, meeting his gaze. "We're in this together. And together, we're unstoppable." The corner of his mouth lifted in a grin that almost seemed to warm the atmosphere around them. "All right, then. Let us see you back up those words." As he stepped aside, the group erupted with renewed energy. Ideas flew at breakneck speed, the initial doubts fading like fog under the morning sun. They forged ahead, voices overlapping as plans took shape. Jessica felt a current of excitement coursing through her. The uncertainty of everything melted into a shared purpose, a sense of coming together against the odds. But deep down, she couldn't shake that unsettling feeling. What if he was right? What if their efforts crumbled in the future? Was their determination enough to shield them from the harsh truths ahead? She pushed those thoughts away, focusing on the vibrant energy in the room. Still, the shadows lingered, whispering doubts that would not easily disperse. And just when she thought they were on the cusp of breakthroughs, the unmistakable sound of glass shattering pierced through the laughter, followed by hurried steps and sharp gasps. What had just happened? Jessica's heart raced as she turned to face the source of the commotion. When she finally pieced together the chaos, it would challenge everything she'd fought for and everything she believed in. As the shattering glass echoed throughout the gym, Jessica's blood ran cold. A collective gasp rose from the crowd, and an uneasy wave washed over her. The laughter and excitement that had just filled the air evaporated, replaced by confusion and apprehension. Jessica's heart raced as she pushed her way through the stunned crowd. "Stay calm. Stay calm," she shouted, though her voice trembled slightly. What had just happened? They turned to see the source of the chaos. Henry stood there, staring wide-eyed at the ground near the door where a glass jar had broken, its contents slips of paper scattered like lost dreams across the floor. "Oh no, no, no," Jessica murmured under her breath as she knelt down, her hands trembling as she picked up the pieces. The slips were remnants from a fundraiser plan. Ideas, hopes, and commitments they had just brainstormed. "Do we have to start over?" someone said, panic edging their voice. Jessica's mind raced. Was their fragile coalition about to crumble at the first sign of disaster? "Absolutely not," she responded, a surge of defiance igniting within her. "This is just a minor setback. Everyone, let us gather what we can and reset." She felt the embers of determination warm her heart as she looked up at her community. "We've come too far to let a little chaos deter us. Everyone, please help." The energy shifted as the crowd began to mobilize, eyes glistening with a blend of fear and fire. Lucas dove in to help her gather the papers, a steady presence by her side, seamlessly pulling people together. One after another, community members reached down, picking up the scattered slips, each resembling a small puzzle piece waiting to be tied back into a grand design. As she watched their unity in action, her heart swelled. See? We're already working together. Nothing can stop us. She cried out, lifting the gathered papers high above her head like a victory flag. I've got an idea! Shouted the blue-haired mom, brandishing a paper towel roll like a baton. Let us write our ideas down again. We'll start a community wall. We can build it up as we go. That's brilliant. Mark echoed, visibly re-energized. We'll put it right here for everyone to see, a reminder of what we can do together. Yeah. The crowd buzzed back to life. Let us turn this into something beautiful. As they rearranged the space, laughter returned, mixing with the hum of creative energy. And in that chaotic moment, Jessica realized something profound. Every setback, every fear, only strengthened their resolve. They were building a home for their hopes, one piece at a time. No challenge could dismantle that. But in the back of her mind, the man's skepticism pierced through, a whisper threatening to extinguish the fiery momentum they had created. Could she truly believe they would rise above the doubts and obstacles ahead? Before she could delve deeper into her concerns, Lucas cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. All right, team. Let us make sure we have enough roles for everyone. We're going to get through this together, one step at a time. With that, Jessica fell into the rhythm of the meeting, guided by fresh energy flowing through the group. They assigned roles, wrote plans, and slowly reconstructed the shards of their vision with renewed spirit. Every laugh, every shared idea, stitched them closer together. As the night wore on, Jessica stepped outside to catch her breath, the chill of the evening air grounding her thoughts. Looking up at the star-speckled sky, she felt a swell of gratitude. They were thriving, even amid uncertainty. Yet deep down, she wondered, would the inevitable storm still test their resilience? Could they truly weather whatever might come? As the laughter echoed behind her, she clung to those questions, knowing they were a part of the journey ahead. When she finally rejoined the group, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. The man who had doubted them was absent again. The realization settled like fresh dew on grass. They defaced negativity and overcome the chaos together. It was a beautiful reminder that in community, strength lay in shared determination. Tomorrow, as we meet again, we'll begin turning our vision into reality, Jessica said, her heart thrumming with hope. This is just the beginning. As they cheered and exchanged glances of camaraderie, the thought squirmed back into her mind, hope won't always come easy, but together, nothing was impossible. They would face whatever lay ahead as one heartbeat, a community united, ready to soar. Now was the moment to embrace the light, to lift each other up and breathe life into their dreams. Because with every echo of doubt, they would simply rise stronger, crafting their future. And as she enveloped everyone in her gaze, Jessica silently vowed, this time, she wouldn't falter. Each challenge was a step toward transformation, and with all of them together, the horizon was bright. This community center was just waiting to be built, and she couldn't wait to every single person at table 15, where dreams began to flourish. So, our friends, to be a part of this journey and witness every moment of transformation and hope, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. Hit that like button now, to show your support and make sure we're reaching as many hearts as possible. We are counting on you to share your thoughts in the comments below and let us know how you feel about this incredible journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans grasp the importance of rallying behind the channel and each other.